Welcome to the cold, damp forests of Yorkshire. And it's places like this that we're going to try stage rallying. Welcome back to the cave, and as you can see from my finest Clarkson impression, it's finally time for our first event. And by some twist of fate, it's actually the Raponian Rally, which is held in Yorkshire in the forest close to where I grew up, and also where I first started watching rallying. We had planned for our first event to be the Wydene back in November 24, but events, as you will find out, or more importantly Eric, conspired against us. In the last video, the Book of Eric, we talked about choosing your rally car, which in our case is a Peugeot 205 GTI, and what our plans were to get it ready to compete. We also talked through some of the work that was underway, and I mentioned that rather than doing a basic refresh, we'd actually be doing something more substantial. Well, substantial went way beyond what we were planning, and pretty much everything we touched on the car we needed to fix. Most of the issues were related to wear and tear, and as on all cars, things wear out, and when you take them apart, they don't go back together the same way, or they develop a fault when you pull them apart that wasn't there before. And we had multiple issues with the wiring, which is a notorious weak point on 205s, with the fuel system and the fuel pump, etc., and various other components of the car. Start, you fucking French cow.
Go for it.
There are pros and cons to all of the work we've had to do. The downside, of course, being the time and the cost. The upside, hopefully, is that we've created a car, cross fingers, that shouldn't suffer any, mechanical and electrical issues. And hopefully that's not me delivering the commentator's curse. On top of that, we've now got a better understanding of the workings of the car, where its weak spots are, and hopefully, if heaven forbid we have an issue actually at an event, we've got a good chance of being able to fix it. Finally, we've been able to get the car back together and complete the final bits, including getting the car on a dyno, running it in, and the most important thing for any self-respecting rally car and rally driver, setting up the light pod, this beautiful bank of Hella Rally 3000s, so that Eric is ready for the event, and that's great. But how about us? For us humans, we've had four things we really needed to do. Firstly, and the most obvious, was getting our entries in for the event and the associated championships that we wanted to enter, making sure they were completed and submitted on time. Secondly, and as per my first video, we've had an extended set of lists that we've created for things we need to take with us and things we need to do. That's both for scrutineering and when we need to have all the paperwork for the car, etc., and for the day of the event itself, what needs to be in the car, what we need in the service vehicle, etc. And we're using these lists as checklists to make sure that everything is packed in the bags before we travel to the event itself. In terms of the stuff that you need to take, there's a surprising amount that you would want to take with you. And the last thing you need to do is to be running around at the last minute in scrutineering trying to find or buy stuff that you've forgotten. We actually started preparing the lists quite some time ago, and we've been constantly going back to them as we've added things that we thought we might need to take. But at some point you do need to start prioritizing. For example, there's no point taking spares with you that would take so long to fit that you wouldn't have time to rejoin an event. And as the Raponian is only 1 day, even if we had a spare engine, we wouldn't take it because there's just no point. The third thing that we've been doing is planning the timings around activities of what's been needed to be done by when. First sets of timings we got were contained in the event regulations. This included things like the dates when entries need to be submitted by and paid for, as well as dates of the timings of scrutineering, the day of the event, etc., etc. Do remember though, some events have really strong followings and they're very popular, so if you don't get your entry in time, you're going to be disappointed. Closer to the event, we got a timing schedule for the day which includes the start times, timings of the first car, road sections, timings between stages, servicing, etc. This means we could create a schedule around us and the service crew, assuming things don't go wrong. We also have a rough idea of the actual timings for the day based on where we think we will be, based on the size of the entry list and where we're going to be seated. For us, it's our first event, and given the car we're in, we think we'll be about 10th on the road-ish. But we'll get a better idea of that and our start time once the seeded entry list is published, which is about 3 to 5 days before the event. The fourth and final thing we need to do in terms of our prep are the pace notes and the road books. Pace notes, if you're using them like we are typically available about 10 days before an event, and we received ours a few days ago. The road book is published about a week before, and so we should see that in the next few days. And we're now in the process of getting to grips with these and doing our associated prep around them. We have a follow-on video about co-driving which covers this in more detail, so do look out for that. Pace notes typically arrive both as a set of written notes and a set of videos showing the stages being driven at low speeds with the notes being read out. For us, we have a particular format for the notes, so we've created a fresh set of notes from the ones provided. Having created our own set of notes, Vera, my co-driver, has then continued to ensure that we have the right maps for the road sections, and these will be marked up once we receive the road book in a couple of days. For myself, I've spent hours watching the videos already and will continue to watch the same footage over and over again, so I'm familiar with the stages, and it isn't all a big shock when we get to the start line of Gale Rig. So there we go. We have a car, we have our lists, and we've prepared our schedules and the pace notes. All we have to do now is hope the car passes scrutineering and that we don't have a crash or a breakdown. And all that remains for me now is to say thanks again for watching and wish us luck. And in true Eric fashion, that's not the end of the story. So having thought we'd got the car finished ready for the event, Eric has decided otherwise. So far we have a broken drive shaft, we need new rear dampers because they're way too stiff, we have a coolant leak, and the washer bottle motor has packed up on us. And we await further fights from our friendly recalcitrant Frenchman. Anyway, hopefully this time it will be ready for about 4 days' time when we head up to scrutineering, and all it remains for me is to say again, wish us luck. Oh, and now I get to do my favourite bit from one of my favourite movies, which is, what are you still doing here? Go!